Good morning, dear participants. Today is 26 July 2021 and it is celebrated as International Mangrove Day. And on the occasion of this, Goktel College Department of Zoology has organized online certification course on mangrove ecology. And I am sure you must have learned many things about the mangroves until now. In today's lecture, you are going to learn about the threats to the mangrove ecosystem in India. So let's start with the basic information about mangroves, and then we'll go to what exactly are the different kind of threats to the mangrove ecosystem. As you all know, mangrove forest is a woody community that can be periodically submerged in seawater of the intertidal zones of tropical and subtropical regions. Mangroves are one of the most productive ecosystem after the tropical rainforests. Okay, and they provide a wide range of goods and services, some of which have a direct value but more often provides many indirect benefits that seem to be hidden. The indiscriminate and exploitative nature towards the extracting its resources have led to severe loss in areas throughout the world. If you think about India, mangroves were exploited indiscriminately during the 1960s. Traditionally considered as wastelands, actually, it was considered as wasteland and dump yards because they were not aware about the importance of mangroves that time. And its importance were understood only over time, okay, after 1960s. Otherwise, it was literally considered as wasteland, and people used to cut it and use for different purposes. Hence, active conservation and regeneration activities were undertaken since the beginning of 1980s. Yet the present area cover is only modest remaining of the past. Compared to the deforestation in the mangrove area or cutting of forest in the mangrove area, the cultivation and the conservation is comparatively very less. And such activities are undertaken by both the government in terms of legislative measures and active local community involvement. Okay. And those people who understood the importance of mangroves, they started growing the mangroves. Now, it's a beautiful picture. You can see the mangroves of Ratnagiri coast, and we have visited these places under the UGC major project and studied this area. But today we are not going to see only the Ratnagiri coast, but we are going to learn about the other coastal areas in India and world. What exactly is the situation of the mangroves of India and the world? Okay, we'll more concentrate on mangroves of India, but there are some examples we can see from abroad also. Okay, so such activities are undertaken by both government in terms of legislative measures and for local community involvement. In addition, threats from global climate change pose the additional concerns for its regeneration and restoration. Now, this particular lecture is basically will covers the threats to Indian mangroves and what are the existing policy framework. We are not going in details of that because it's a very basic course. And what are the new conservation strategies developed, that is also not part of this particular lecture, but we are going to learn something what exactly is posing threat to the mangrove ecosystem of India and the world. Okay, so let's start with the understanding of what is mangroves and why they are important. I think you have learned all these things. These are the mangroves of India, and you can see the different parts of coastal area like west coast and the coast. You can see the mangrove patches are there, major patches are there, and if you'll see the Arabian Sea, there are mangroves on in coast of Gujarat, in the Ratnagiri, Goa. If you'll come to little bit west in the Kerala also, you'll find rich source of or resources of mangroves. On the south coast also, the Indian Oceans, which was affected due to tsunamis in 2004. There is a very big deltas of Kaveri River mangroves, Andaman Nicobars, then Krishna, Godavari mangroves, and in the east also the best mangrove of the world you can say is the Sundarbans. Okay, so let's study about these mangroves, and this is another table you can see what exactly is the uh, amount of mangrove present on the east coast of India and how much is in the west coast of India. Okay, so we are going to learn about the different threads now posing to the mangrove ecosystems. We all know the importance of mangroves. I think you have learned it in the earlier lectures. So I am not going in the services or economic importance or ecological importance of mangroves, but we'll directly go to the threads to the mangrove ecosystem because this is about the west coast and have highlighted the mangroves area, and that is 330 square kilometer in Maharashtra. Out of that, 19 species are true mangroves and 10 are associated species of mangroves are there in Maharashtra. So this particular slides explains you about loss of mangroves in the world. About 50% of the world's original mangroves have now been lost. We are experiencing this when I am taking lecture, you and me also experiencing the effect of climate change and the effect of human interference with the nature. And in 2004 and 2005 we have seen the effect of mangroves when the tsunami came. In those areas where the mangroves were existing, the effect was very less compared to the those areas in which the mangroves have been destroyed. Okay, so mangroves are very important source and they protect us from the coastal cyclones, tsunamis, and desiltation. The effect of desiltation is the floods. Okay, so the threats which are going to learn in that, what we have seen that almost 50% is destroyed mangrove forest of the world, and India is no less in that. Okay, India has also very good participation in that. So we should think about the conservation, what are the threats and how we can overcome these threats. By 2030, less than 15 million left mangrove cover left in the world, and currently the rate of loss is 1% per annum, roughly the size of London. Okay, so with that much speed we are destroying the mangrove forest. Now slowly we are understanding the importance of it, but the way we are destroying the conservation is at very slow rate. So, which are the diverse of changes in the mangrove ecosystem, and what are the main threats to the biodiversity? First one is the habitat change, that is, we are converting these lands to agriculture and aquaculture. We are going to see in details also exploitation of mangroves for provisioning of services like overexploitation for different purposes, climate change, natural calamities like coastal cyclones and the tsunamis, invasive species, pollution, and threats from the unsustainable tourism. These are some of the things I have pointed here. There are so many other factors also for the responsible for the threats to the mangroves. Now, first one we are going to learn is about the agriculture and aquaculture, and these activities are the most prevalent and faced by states such as West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, even in case of Maharashtra, some cases where we can see that these mangrove patches have been used for agriculture and aquaculture purposes. You can see it here. There are have constructed bunds in the mangrove forest areas by destroying mangrove forest. How they use uh, it for the aquaculture, it is basically very important that when the high tide comes, the water enters in the ponds, and it will remain in the ponds when the low tide comes. Okay, so during the high tide the water remain in the this aqua, aquaculture ponds, and on that they do the shrimp farming mostly. Okay, so very what you can say lucrative business, and from that they are exporting lot of shrimps to uh, abroad, mostly the Southeast Asia, and in that countries there's a lot of demand for the shrimps. Okay, so they do the aquaculture in this deforested lands of mangroves. At the same time they are also using it for the agriculture purpose. Okay, they are converting into paddy fields and some other purposes. The large proportion of the lands is cleared in agriculture expansion, and the lands are made fertile using rainwater, which reduces the salinity of soil. Okay, you know the it's a continuously changing environmental conditions. Sometimes the salinity is more, sometimes it's less. So the plants which are grown here are adapted to this kind of changing aquatic conditions. And in the case of agriculture, they are not only utilizing it for paddy field and all these things, but at the same time they use excessive fertilizers and pesticides for growing these paddy fields. They spray pesticides on this and create spills over effect of surrounding ecosystems. Okay, so all these fertilizers and chemical pesticides, they enter in the ecosystem, and they creates problems with the entire ecosystem, not with the plants but also to the animals. Okay, so you can see this picture. They have constructed these agriculture lands. They have developed these agriculture lands near the mangrove ecosystem, and which leads to loss of the fertile lands of mangroves. It get converted into agricultural land, and due to that there is a pollution of fertilizers and pesticides in this ecosystem. Next we are going to learn about the exploitation of mangroves for providing services. Now what kind of services they provide, that also you have learned, so I'm not going to go in more detail about the services provided by mangroves, but for the different purposes they have used this mangrove forest. First of all, mangrove wood is considered as one of the best with the high strength, and they are suitable for industrial purposes. So they cut the mangrove forest. They think there is no use of this forest. They cut it and sell it in the market as a good quality wood. Okay, it can be seen that states such as Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu faces threats from over exploitation. Even in the Maharashtra also, you can visit to the Ratnagiri coast, Bhateshwari, and if you from outside it reach, you can see that it's a rich mangrove, but from if you'll go inside, you will find that the entire forest of mangroves is destroyed. They have cut the big trees in the inside the forest on the islands, and due to that, the soil is getting desilted. Soil is releasing in the water, and it reduces the mouth of the estuary. Okay, and that is also responsible for the floods in different areas. So they are using it for different purposes, from firewood, for furniture, for other things also. They are using it for beekeeping in many areas like Sundarbans. They are using it for uh, these mangrove forests for beekeeping, because the apis dorsata species, basically they are present in that forest, and on the from the flowers of mangroves they can collect pollen and nectar. So exploitation with the help of all these kind of activities in the mangrove forest, even they construct some roads inside the mangrove forest, and due to that it gets destroyed. Okay, so over exploitation is another threat to the mangrove forest. Next is the, we have experienced it in 2004, not us but India overall, the cyclones and the tsunamis. Cyclones now due to climate change we are experiencing every year. Okay, so the natural calamities basically are affecting the uh, mangroves, and they are pose threat to the mangroves. Mangroves are acts as a barrier against the natural disasters, but sometimes disasters could in turn prove at affects the mangroves. So they destroys the entire mangrove belt due to the high speed of winds and the water which enters the fresh water or marine water which enters in the mangroves, which destroys the mangrove ecosystem. To cite a few examples, we can take the example in 1990 cyclone which occurred in Odisha, and it's devastated a large area of mangroves and the trees were thus uprooted. Okay, and it was even seen in the Andaman Nicobar Islands during 2004 tsunamis. The speed of the water was so much that the entire forest was destroyed. And there are cyclones regularly coming, though the mangroves are protecting us from the coastal cyclones, but still, due to deforestation in that area, the land has become loose and there are so many trees falling down and the forest is getting affected. Okay, so next we can see is about the pollution. Pollution is another threat to the mangrove ecosystem, and if you'll visit the nearest mangroves to your area, you can see this kind of situation, not the upper one, but the lower one where they have thrown so much of garbage, such as plastic waste mostly. They are dangerous for the mangroves. Mangroves which are located in the cities such as Mumbai, Calcutta face huge risk of large amount of solid waste and effluents that enters into the ecosystem, and this make it difficult for the mangroves to survive and hinders the growth. We have seen so many places, even in case of Ratnagiri also we have visited the uh, mangrove sites, and we have seen such kind of pictures where the uh, people throw all sorts of garbages in the mangrove ecosystem. It is going deep in the soil. The plastic we know cannot get degraded for a longer period like 400 years. It will go in the form of microplastic uh, to the bodies of these aquatic animals, and we don't know what exactly is going to happen in the future. For the coastal people, fish is the staple food, and if they will not get the fish, the future, it's very difficult for them. Okay. Another is problem of pollution is industrial pollution in industrial areas where they leave the sewage water, they leave the effluents in the these mangrove ecosystems, and that is also is creating the problem. And there are oil spills due to the boats which are or ships traveling in the mangrove belt, and these oil spills are also problematic for the mangrove ecosystem. Next threat is of what you can say the unsustainable tourism. I have not. This is the effect of tourism and what you can say the developmental activities in the mangroves. The upper picture is of mangroves of Mumbai, where there's a lot of problem due to destruction to the mangroves, and this is a major threat faced by Andaman Nicobar Islands, and it is one of the major reasons for area of loss over the years. Tourism adds to the pressure of provisioning services and leads to greater extraction and exploitation of the resources, lead to greater exploitation. Okay, so if you are going for exploration, like in the mangroves, they construct the bridges, they construct the roads by destroying the mangroves, and the tourist goes inside the this mangrove forest. They, though they enjoy the nature, at the same times they are affecting the mangrove ecosystem. They are throwing garbages, they are throwing plastic bottles, and due to this, what you can say, in between construction of bridges and these roads, the forest is getting destructed. So, conventional tourism in turn adds to the above threats mentioned and often puts pressure on local communities dependent on mangroves to compete for critical resources. You can do the go for ecotourism. Okay, you can utilize this as the important source of ecotourism without disturbing the mangroves. That is possible, but conventional tourism is not at all uh, good for the mangroves. Next, what you can see, the climate change. Climate change is also affecting in a large quantity to the mangrove ecosystem, and it is one of the most important issue that universal in nature and cannot be attributed to just one state. Increased temperature, a rise in sea level, increasing frequencies of natural calamities are all repercussions of global climate change, and which in turn will have its own impact on mangroves. A recent observation reveals that as a consequence of sea level rise, two islands of Indian Sundarbans have submerged, and dozens of other islands are also facing the same problem. Okay, so the climate change here, the picture is of deforestation and how they are using these mangrove lands and mudlands for the aquaculture and parking their boats. Okay, but the very important aspect is of climate change, and we can learn more in some another lecture about the climate change. But here we are, I'm just giving you as a threat to the mangroves. The increasing sea level, increasing temperature has affected not only the mangrove plants, but the mangrove ecosystem, biodiversity overall. Okay, so this that is another threat to the mangrove ecosystem. So overall, you can see if we'll go to the West Bengal, the agriculture, prawns seed collection, freshwater flow reduction is the threat to the mangrove ecosystem. In Andaman Nicobar Islands, calamities like tourism, development, encroachment is the main threat in the mangrove ecosystem. In Gujarat, developmental activities like coral reef degradation, same even in case of Andaman Nicobar also. In Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Karnataka, the overexploitation, agriculture, tree felling, and pollution are the major problems. Okay, and can see how they are utilizing this mangroves for different purposes. Local people, the over exploitation is in case also of the fish resources. As you know, the population is increasing, the demand for fish is also increasing, and in that case, mangrove is a rich source of fishery and aquaculture for aquaculture, and they collect these natural fish which are present in the mangroves. Then now if we'll see what are the things we can do to control this. In short, I'm explaining you about the different things what we can do is the cultivation of mangroves, development of mangrove nursery in your area, develop mangrove plants, collect the seedlings from the this area or seeds from the area, cultivate in the this plastic bags, and then you can go for cultivation. You can involve the local people, even the school and college students, for cultivation of mangroves. And there are so many examples in Mumbai and even in the south, like in Tamil Nadu. They have done a good plantation in the mangrove forest, and due to that, it has covered lot of deforested land, converted lot of deforested land to the forested land. Okay, Now another things, this is example in case of Mumbai, they are cleaning, the students they are participating in clean drive, and they are collecting plastic and other garbage waste from the mangroves. See the condition, what happened to this particular area. Now at the end we should understand, there was a quote from a fisherman, that if there are no mangrove forests, then the sea will have no meaning. It is like having a tree with no roots, for the mangroves are the roots of the sea, and that's why we have to conserve the mangroves. So, on the occasion of this International Mangrove Day, I wish you the best, all the best for the progression, or what you can say, the conservation of mangroves. And I hope you can participate whenever it is possible. You can participate in the conservation activities of mangroves. Thank you very much.